Okay, order. Welcome to our September 7th council meeting. Would you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Matt, we should start us with a roll call.
Councilor Halter.
Here.
Zadi.
Here.
Demas.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
Savage.
Here.
Hickerson.
Here.
West.
Here.
Batolo.
Here.
Mayor Acomo.
Here. First, I'd just like to recognize Senator James and Representative Stitt. And we also have Cindy Lane, Sweetwater County, here with us today. We're going to get started and jump into the approval of the minutes from the City Council meeting of August 17th, 2021, and the City Council special meeting minutes of August 31st, 2021. Councilors, I'd entertain a motion to approve those.
Your Honor.
Councilman Batolo,
So moved.
we do have a motion to approve those. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is going to bring us to our appointment section of our agenda. Councilors, item number 1, I have, Mr. President and members of the council, the name of Gloria Hutton to serve third term on the Urban Renewal Agency Commission.
Council, you have before you the name Gloria Hutton to serve third term in the Urban Renewal Agency Commission. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Zadi.
Yes?
Demas.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Hickerson.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Batolo.
Yes.
Halter.
Yes.
Mayor, you have your appointment.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. We're going to move on to the presentations and proclamations section of our agenda. And item number 1, election judge recruitment. I'm going to turn some time over to Cindy Lane, Sweetwater County Clerk, to let us know what's going on and what we need. Cindy?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to bring attention to some things for the upcoming special election that we're still needing here in the elections department. And I did hand out some of our flyers. I did bring some over to the city to be put in city buildings for recruitment for election judges. I know it seems like we need a lot of judges for this type of activity. It's just that each judge has a different job, and they're not allowed to leave that job, because if you're watching the machine, that's your job for the day, and you can't run and help somebody else. So it does take quite a bit of numbers to run 21 polling locations. Each one has, on average, 7, and then our larger polling locations require 10 to 12, depending. One of our polling locations in Green River at the rec center has, let's see if I can read without my glasses, 2,093 people that go through that polling location. So the more people we can have there helping out, the faster that goes. We have reopened all polling locations for this election, and we'll keep it for the next one, if at all possible. So this number is a low number even. When we get into 2022, the number will rise. We are at 142 judges right now. We do need an bare minimum 200. We are going to think about in advance, if our COVID numbers keep rising in Sweetwater County, having somebody available to do like we did last time, so individuals who should be in quarantine don't come into our buildings and stand with everybody else. We're going to try to get that set up as well. So I am just needing help with recruiting. We sent out the 350 letters to the judges that were already on our rolls as those who had indicated they were willing to be judges when they registered to vote or called in. And so far, with the help of even just newspaper and stuff, we are at 142. The others have declined. So this is just to keep awareness, get it out to the public that we do need judges. They are paid $185 for the day. It's a long day, starts at 6 and ends whenever it ends, usually around 9 o'clock at night. So it's a long day, but there is compensation. Or if they want to volunteer, they can volunteer without the pay. I also handed out a little flyer that will be going out there at the printer now that talks about the new voter ID law that took effect July 1st. We haven't had time yet with this election popping up to get that out there. We were going to begin in January, but we're going to start now. You do have to have an ID at the polling location to prove who you are when you come in to vote. No more walking in giving your name. You do have to provide some sort of ID. And in this pamphlet, it gives what those are. So that way the community doesn't wait in line, get in there, forget their driver's license or some other form of ID and have to go back and get one. And also, if you do not have an ID and you want to vote, you can go to the local, I don't call it DMV here, but the Department of Motor Vehicles and request an ID as well. Well, I brought some other information. Right now we are at 16,753 registered voters as of today. I did break that out by different parties for myself, but we are also in need of, when we are at the polling locations, I'll go back to judges really quick, we are supposed to have different parties represented for that. So if we open an election machine, you have to have 2 parties at that machine when you break that seal to sign off that they saw you open that machine and then reseal it when they're done fixing whatever the problem was or emptying that bin if it's too full. So I am in need of some different parties besides Republican to step forward and help out with the process as well, just to keep it as fair and transparent as possible. We will open with whatever we have available, but I am trying to recruit some of the different parties as well. Do you have any questions?
Council?
If someone's willing to be a judge, when do they need to notify you by? Or did you say that already?
Yes, so judges training, in order to be a judge, I know last time some people called on election day volunteering to be judges, and I had to say no, because statutorily you have to go to a training and sign an oath before you can be a judge, because it's a little more than checking yes or no and turning it in. You do have to know how to run poll books, know how to register people, know which IDs and what the process is to make sure you are eligible to be a voter. If we can't prove it at the polls, then there is a provisional ballot you can cast, and then you have 24 hours to bring the information to the clerk's office to prove that that information is correct. And then we can run the ballot if the canvassing board accepts that.
So what date would you need to know by?
I'm trying to think when they are. I believe there's 2 in October, and I know that's hunting season. I'm getting a lot of flack for that. It's 2 weekends. I believe it's the first weekend and the third weekend of October, but I didn't bring that information. But it is in October. So by the end of September, first week of October, you'd have to be signed up for a training.
Is that information advertised on the training?
It will be advertised,
Okay.
yes. And actually, when we sent all the letters out, we sent a flyer with those, asking them if they wanted to check. And so all of the judges have checked which training they prefer to go to. And then we'll be holding those out at the sheriff's training room.
Your Honor.
Councilman Savage?
Well, thanks for coming down, because you only have a couple weeks to get 60 more people.
Yes.
So after we voted, how do our votes get from the polling place to your office, or where do they go next?
Okay, so each of our DS200s, that is our election equipment, has a USB. And there's no connection to internet, nothing. It's just run off of a USB. So in the evening, we have to wait for those to come in. The Sheriff's Department has been very helpful in sending deputies out because we have them in Bear Oil and McKinnon and Washam.
Oh, yeah.
And Farson and Granger. So, those are a little closer, but we do get help with that. When those USB sticks come in, they are put into a machine that is dedicated only to the election, and it's not hooked up to any internet, any anything else. It just runs the program that counts those numbers. We do set up a call center because everyone gets a little anxious about numbers, and the judges do call them in using the tapes that at the end of the night when you shut the machine down, it runs a tape of all the votes, and then that is a number at the end, tells you, it'll say yes or no on this one, and they will tell us what those numbers are so we can give unofficial results. And even when the USB sticks come in, they're still unofficial because any of those provisional ballots or any ballots that had any type of issue has to go before the canvassing board, which will be on Friday, 3rd or 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. And then if they approve those ballots and they're legal ballots, they get run through the DS450, which is our big machine that runs larger quantities of ballots. That's what our absentee ballots are ran on. So that's why the numbers do change sometimes, just depending on how many provisionals we have.
And then we vote absentee, so I mail in my absentee vote, and what happens with that? How does that get counted?
So if you notice when you get your absentee ballot, the inside envelope has a barcode on it. So what happens when you mail that back in, we scan that barcode into our system called WyoReg. That's the statewide system. It also lets us know whether you're a voter or a felon or, then you actually should be voting. And so we put that in there, and you can actually check and see if your ballot made it in, or call. We'll look it up as well. A lot of people call to make sure it got there. And then it is, we put them all in precinct order alphabetically, and they are stored in a locked container in a locked room. And then depending on what legislators do for us on whether we can open them early on major elections, like this last one, we had like over 5,000 absentee ballots we had to run, and we were able to open them Thursday, Friday, keep them. We don't tabulate them. They're not tabulated. They're just checked in and made sure they're ready to run on election day. So once that's done and your ballot comes in, like I said, you can check on that. If for some reason it gets lost, we can cancel that one and send out a new one with a new barcode so you can't vote twice. Then once those are stored, like I said, there's only a couple people that have access to those, and they're locked with a lock and key. I have the key to those so that nobody else can get in there. And then on election day, we do take them out, and they are run through the DS450. And at the end of the night at 7 o'clock, then we have to go in and switch like I have the admin code to switch it, and then it tabulates them and tells us what the results are. So until after 7 o'clock, we don't know what the results are.
Thank you. That's very
Cindy,
interesting.
on the DS450, is data stored on the DS450 and then transferred to thumb drive? When you remove the thumb drive, is there any other data? I've just walked down the hall and seen a thumb drive get corrupt and
Yes.
lose files. So what
Yes.
happens in that
No,
case?
it is on the DS450 until we erase, and every
Gotcha.
machine has the information on there until we go in, and we have to do an audit after. We have to take the same test deck we have and run it before. It's a whole process to seal all the machines, and we run it on there and we keep that tape. And then at the end of the election, we take the same information, run it through, and make sure we had the same results, just like an
Gotcha.
internal audit. So that information is on there until we erase it, but it's always saved on the thumb drive.
Plus you have the paper ballots.
Plus
You
we have the paper ballots,
yeah.
always, and those are locked
As a
away as
backup.
well. Yes.
Hanging chads. And all that.
Oh, don't
We
even
don't do
kid.
What we've
Draw
been
in the
through over the
circle
last
with a
couple of
pencil.
years, you just don't know what could happen.
Right.
That's interesting. So we need to promote and find judges as soon as
Please.
possible.
Yes, that would be really nice, so we can assign them. We do try to assign people to the precincts, because a lot of times people like to be with the same people. This year, we're not going to be able to do that. It's been a little hard for some of our judges to understand that we may need you to go to the Civic Center, even though you normally vote at the library, and that's where you like to be. We are having to move them just because we have to spread everybody out so thin, just to get the coverage that we need. So
Yeah.
the more people, they're welcome.
Your Honor,
Councilman West.
so you said if they fail to bring their driver's license or form of ID, they can still vote, but I can't remember the word you used, but
Provisional.
they have provisional, which is
Mhm.
up to 24 hours. That could be significant. I mean, you would think
Um,
most everyone's got their
right.
ID on them, but I mean, if it,
Right.
the unofficial results come out that night, and then you're waiting 24 hours, and you got 1,000 more, or even a couple hundred more. I mean, that could change.
It could
a lot of things.
with this, and that's why we're trying right now to start promoting Bring Your ID. In Wyoming, we're not used to having to do that. I mean, a lot of people say, because they'll call us and they'll say, "Oh, I always thought you had to. I always brought mine." And I'm like, "Well, we'll take it if they hand it. We're not going to say no." So, you know, someone hands your ID, they look at it, but we couldn't ask for it. But now we have to ask for it. So it's going to be something new, and we're just trying to get the word out there. Bring an ID. Right now you can bring a Medicare card, a Medicaid card. There's all, you know, passport.
Yeah. What do you do with those provisionals? I mean, you're not going to throw them into the machine, right?
No, everyone gets a unique little slip, because we have to, it's the only time we get to know, if you're going to look at it that way, what people did, because we have to put a slip with their name on it, keep it in an envelope. It's a confidential envelope. But then the next day, if they come in, then we have to be able to get their ballot out. So they give up that right at that moment to do that. But we don't have time to look, so I don't.
Just curious.
But yeah, no, that's what happens. Yeah, because that's what I thought at first. How do they do that? But they get like a number, like a unique number. We try to keep it as confidential as we can. But if they bring me their license the next day, or a passport, or whatever it takes. So it's like a double check. When you register to vote, you have to do the same thing.
Any other questions, counselors? Cindy, thank you for your time and explanation. We'll get the word out best we possibly can, and hopefully we'll meet the quota.
And as soon as we have some of these voter ID pamphlets, can I bring some over here to
Yes,
leave out somewhere for people to take?
you bet.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Item number 2 is Hunger Action Month, which we have proclamation. I'd first ask Kathy, would you want to come down and say a few words? Come on down and let us know what we're doing, and some information about Hunger Action Month.
Well, first off, thank you so much for this proclamation. And then I'm Kathy Seiler with Food Bank of Sweetwater County. And our food bank is a community partner of Food Bank of Wyoming, and we're also a community partner of United Way of Southwest Wyoming. And so our agency's on the front lines of fighting hunger right here in our community. And Food Bank of Wyoming wants to move communities to action against hunger and food insecurity. And to do that, they are asking that you please take time during the month of September to volunteer and be a hunger hero, help those who are food insecure find the resources that they need, and to advocate for and end hunger here in Wyoming.
You guys do a great job, and I see every time I go by you're busy.
Yes.
I'm also glad to see you've had some decent donations made to the bank, including one van, two vans.
Two vans.
Two vans.
And we are very appreciative of the community support that we receive. It's tremendous.
Yes, that is great. Well, we have a proclamation. I'm going to read that supports Hunger Action Month, and it reads, whereas addressing the food insecurity needs of children, youth, men, women, seniors, active military, and veterans today is fundamental for the future of the city of Rock Springs. And hunger and poverty are issues of vital concern in Sweetwater County, where 12.9% of people struggle with hunger. Not knowing where their next meal will come from, or choosing between food and utilities, housing, or medicine, and the need for comprehensive coordinated emergency food programs placed upon our community a critical responsibility. The City of Rock Springs is committed to combating hunger in every part of our community and providing additional resources to those in need. And Rock Springs partners with Food Bank of Wyoming, a member of the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks and their local partner, Food Bank of Sweetwater County, to educate people about the important role of hunger relief organizations, raising awareness for the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger and food insecurity issues. And more than 1,325 residents of Sweetwater County rely annually on food provided by the Food Bank of Wyoming and their local partners. And Food Bank of Wyoming is generous funders, volunteers, and local partner agencies are committed to educating citizens on the role of food banks and hunger relief efforts in solving hunger. And Food Bank of Wyoming provides over 10.9 million meals across Wyoming annually. And to engage each of us to help end hunger one meal at a time, either through donations, social media shares, or volunteer shifts. And the month of September is designated Hunger Action Month in order to bring awareness to food insecurity in our communities. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Timothy Acomo, Mayor of the City of Rock Springs, do hereby proclaim September 2021 to be Hunger Action Month in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and I encourage all citizens to increase their understanding of food insecurity and how it impacts our nation, state, county, and community. Thanks for all you do down there, and if anybody hasn't been down there to go take a look at what goes on down there, drop in and take a look. There's a lot of people that are served through that building, and I'm glad to see the support of the community when times are tough, which they are.
Yes, they are.
Thanks, Kathy. We'll give you a
Thank you.
proclamation and take a picture if we could. Okay, this is going to move us towards the public hearings section of our agenda, of which we have two public hearings. Item number one is a public hearing regarding a request from the Rock Springs Housing Authority to apply to the Department of Housing and Urban Development for the demolition of a structurally unsound duplex located at 1405 Thompson, Rock Springs, Wyoming, of which will take action under Resolution 2021-125. Is there anyone here tonight wishing to speak in regards to this hearing? Hearing none. Item number two is a public hearing regarding a request from the Planning and Zoning Commission for a preliminary plat approval for the Volsik subdivision, of which will take action under Resolution 2021-126. Is there anyone here tonight wishing to speak on this hearing? Hearing none, I'm going to move towards the petition section of our agenda, and I would ask that if there is anyone here tonight wishing to address the council on any issue, this is your time to do so. Just come on down to the mic, state your name for the record, and let us know what your issue may be.
Good evening, Council. My name is Senator Tom James, and I actually have a few items I'd like to address you about. The first thing is I'd like to ask the Council to take an inventory of their property, more specifically the vacant land that you have in your possession. I'd like to see you guys to require, I'd like you to take a look at it and look at all the vacant land and look at the state that it's in, and notice that it's in horrible condition. You got it overgrown with weeds, trash, and, you know, you wouldn't let your constituents' properties look like that. You have all this money, about $100,000 in weed and pest. Then you have about another $132,000 in weed mitigation. And nothing's being done with this land. You aren't utilizing it in any means. So I ask you what your plan is with it. And if you don't have a plan with it, you should probably get rid of it. Get some revenue coming from it or something. But right now it's just a blight. And it's not very attractive. So,
Senator James, are you speaking to any particular tract of land?
all of it.
What? Where?
Well, you got a bunch over in the President Streets.
Any in
got-
particular? Where?
You got some over on Madison. You got 3 plots of land on you got one on Madison, you got one on Blue Sage, and you got one big tract on Foothill.
Is the one on Blue Sage in regards to the vacant piece that you were interested in?
That
Earlier?
one was just recently cleaned up. I'm not interested in that, but it's still vacant. Nothing's being done with it. Nothing's ever been done with it. The one on Madison, that one full of weeds. I've filed a nuisance report on that. Still nothing's been done with it. The one on Foothill, that's a big old tract right there. And every once in a while there's some equipment stored on there. There's been a Sweetwater 1 school district cargo van parked on there for years, and nothing, it just sits there.
Could you be
So-
more specific on where that parcel is on Foothill?
It's on Foothill, right across from the elementary school. It's Foothill and I believe it's Madison, right at that intersection. It's right from Cleveland, right up the street. Yeah, I believe it's Madison. That lot was considered, it was labeled as unknown property or vacant land or something like that by the assessor. But when I further investigated it, it was city property. And so, you know, it's just, I like the city to do something with their vacant land. I mean, even before, when I was interested in purchasing that property, you had mentioned that the city does have a lot of vacant land around Rock Springs. And I was wondering what their intention was with it.
Well, Senator, we have vacant land. A lot of them are UP leases that we have for different areas, and we do every year award a weed mitigation contract, and they take that pretty seriously. There's not a lot of money in it. That's a big city, and when we get complaints, we actually move them to those areas. Mr. Kausich does. And the cemetery crew actually works on weed mitigation as well. So I do not know of any complaint that you issued on a tract on Foothill. Did you send that to the nuisance person,
did.
your city council? Where did
I
that
sent
go
it
to?
to the nuisance, the police department, which is where I was sent to, the weed mitigation department. But that one's about 5 acres. And it's right on a corner.
By Roosevelt Way, Sierra Road.
I think
That's
it's
On the corner of the field.
Yeah,
Overland.
There's that big field.
There.
this one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I wonder why it doesn't come
Isn't
up
that
as
BLM?
ownership.
Yeah, it doesn't come up.
Yeah, it doesn't come up with
Is that-
anything, but that's
Is
yours.
that our? It doesn't show.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's something Your Honor, I'll have to look at.
Okay.
But I talked to the
Thanks, Paul.
county, and they said it was yours, so. And then that one on Madison as well. It's right at that T. If you go up Madison, right before you get to Blue Sage. And, but I was just wanting that to be addressed. And then, but yeah, that was just one thing. I have a couple other issues if we're,
Well, let's talk about your nuisance complaints first
Yes.
off, because it seems like you're fairly sure we're not doing anything, but you brought up 2 lots in an entire city. Any other areas?
those were my main concern right there. I haven't had time to really investigate others, but if those haven't been addressed, then I'm sure there are others. I can spend about an hour or so and find them if you'd like.
The other one that you brought up, just so I have it in my own mind and I can check on it, on Madison, upper end of Madison?
Yeah.
Jackson?
It's the lot we had appraised when the Y was appraised.
Oh, the lot?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, if you'd like me to find every single parcel, I can.
Well, I'd be interested in knowing where you feel we're not keeping up with what mitigation we can possibly keep up with
It's
the
mainly-
financial
It's mainly the
ability we
the
have.
vacant lands. As far as the ones that have something on them, like parks or any city property, I'm not addressing those. It's the vacant ones that I'm addressing. The ones that have nothing on them.
Commander Kessler, could you please look into complaints filed by Senator James on the Foothill or Madison area when you get a chance with Julia? Thank you. Well, we appreciate you bringing that up to our attention. We definitely tried to tackle what we can with the financial ability that we do throughout the summer years on weed mitigation, but
Well, if it's something that's out of the city's ability to financially handle, then I would look at getting rid of the land. So if it's, because it just doesn't make sense to have more than you can handle. And it's no sense in raising taxes or anything like that on the people to maintain something that you're not going to use.
Your Honor,
Councilman Zadi.
I think part of the thing with some of this vacant land, correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows differently, but when a subdivision's developed, we do have land in lieu of a park, or there might be some land that just doesn't fit or is not developable, and that's why it's vacant.
That's
there are times people have offered or tried, you've looked at purchasing the land, but we can't just give it away. We have to give a fair market value, and so when that's done, people don't want to buy it. I think that's some concern there, and some reason, an issue. Some of it's just not developable and not marketable.
Well, that's exactly what happens, Councilman Zadi, and Senator, you know whole well during the time that you were interested in that piece being public lands has to go through a process of appraisal and issued out to the public in fair market value for people to bid on. And when you saw what the appraised value was for the land, you simply walked away.
Well, and the problem is that your guys' appraiser was far different than mine, and your guys' appraiser didn't take the proper route than what mine did. Your appraiser didn't do the SOP. Mine did. He didn't look at comparable properties. Mine did. So that's why I walked away. Yours was about $40,000 higher than it should have been. That's why I walked away.
Let me ask you a question. What would you be willing to pay for that
I don't
piece?
want that.
I know, that's what I'm telling you, is it got down to the fact that you didn't want to pay a dime for that piece of land, Senator.
That's not what the problem
That
was.
exactly, because I have your exact comments that said, I don't have any interest of paying anything for that piece of land.
That's not what my comment was.
Okay. Well, I disagree with you. You can say what you want. Our appraisal did his due diligence. That's what it was worth, and we simply just couldn't make a deal. But I don't think your intention was to have to pay for anything when you found out that there was improvements that also had to be made on the parcel, which included gravel, drainage,
And that
and
was
everything else.
fine. I had no problem with doing that. I had no problem with paying it. But what your guys said was wrong.
Well, I'm not, we can go looking through the records and see what occurred there, but the appraiser is the appraisal that we use all the time, and that's what the number was.
That's probably why people are paying too much. And that's probably why the budget is bloated. Moving on to the next subject. So, the 1% tax that the county is wanting to do, and that the resolution, I am here to speak against it for the simple fact that what the 1% tax is going for is unnecessary. What they're wanting to spend it on is unclear, is not transparent. What they're stating is that it says in there, public safety agencies includes, but is not limited to. So that, to me, says that they can spend it on anything. It also says that under the economic development. Economic development is not the government's role. If society needs it, then it'll happen. The more government gets involved in things, the more things get screwed up. It has been shown time and time again. Government needs to get out of the way. And yes, the legislature brought it, unfortunately, gave the ability for you guys to do this, for the counties to do this, but there are plenty of other places to cut. For instance, the golf course, $2 million a year, only has a revenue of $740,000. Civic Center, $1.3 million, only $270,000 a year. Indoor Rec Center, $2.9 million a year, only has a revenue of $512,000 a year. You guys give the airport $1 million. That place goes to the Green River, goes to Rock Springs, and the county. Every year. It should be self-sustaining by now, but no. But we also subsidize the air service too. I mean, we're giving away so much money and spending money on things that we shouldn't be. If we were to cut those things, we could have had that Bitter Creek project done by now. If we had that done, this place would be thriving. We have the FEMA flood zone. I mean, that would have solved all kinds of issues. People don't want to build and fix their place if they're in a flood zone. I mean, look what just happened. So that's why we don't need that tax, and that goes for Green River and the county. So many places we could cut. Third and final thing, Juneteenth. We don't need a holiday for Juneteenth. We shouldn't be supporting that. That's just a liberal agenda item. Emancipation Proclamation, if we're going to support anything, we should be supporting that. I mean, that's when Lincoln said, all persons held as slaves are and henceforth shall be declared free. That's the important thing of that whole event. Not Juneteenth. January 1st, 1863. So, and that's all I have to say. I mean, I'll take any questions.
Councilors, questions for the senator?
Senator James, do you mind if I ask how old you are?
39.
Were you taught at any point that when you're in a public building, you remove your hat
That's what I was wondering.
as a sign
It
of respect
varies.
for the entity?
It varies depending on situation. I can remove it.
Thanks.
Councilman Batolo.
Yes. Yes, sir. I got it from the Rock Springs budget. This year's budget that you guys approved.
Well, we can check them all we want. You're always going to have that that discussion, and it seems like you're hinged over cut golf course, cut civic center, cut funding to the airport, cut anything to do with economic development. By all means, if we had the Better Creek completed, this place would be thriving. So you're saying take all that revenue from the golf course, the civic center, all the funding that we would put into the airport, turn around and build the creek out, because that's the problem. Why we're not thriving is because the creek project isn't finished. Is that correct?
I'm saying that's one of the issues, but you're spending more money than you're bringing in. That's the issue.
But you also understand, since the inception, that recreation was never put in place to be profitable. It was put in place to provide a quality of life for the residents who lived in the community. So as one person would come to the microphone and say, cut the golf course, cut the civic center, cut the rec center, we would have 10 people come up and say, what are you doing? We need quality of life, or we don't intend to live here. Our kids need recreation. We need a recreation. There has to be something to do. Do you golf?
No, I have.
Do you recreate at the civic center, rec center?
I recreate outside.
Okay,
Wyoming's
well, we do,
entire
but
state is a
I'm just saying
recreation
that
center.
it's easy to say that, but it's much harder when you have each one of these counselors and myself, we have constituents that support recreation and quality of life, and new families that move their businesses here that want to see a higher quality of life. Yes, they aren't money makers, but by all means they are, in my opinion, essential to keeping families healthy, keeping families here, and providing some aspect of recreation in the community.
Would you not agree that Wyoming as a state is a recreation center?
Say that again?
Would you not agree that Wyoming as a state is one giant recreation center?
Oh, I'm totally agree. I'm an outdoors person, and I utilize every bit I can utilize, but those things come to an end come wintertime, pretty much, unless you're a skier, snow machiner, or whatever, but there's no ability. We're actually pursuing some possible combined efforts in looking at an inside field house for individuals around here. We're one of the few in the states that does have no opportunity for our youth athletics to practice in the winter, to have games, to have events. So recreation and those type of amenities that are quality of life are important to some people. Maybe not to you, but they are important to some people.
Your Honor, if
Councilman
I can add
Robinson.
one more thing. Law enforcement is not a money-making entity. Fire is not a money-making entity. Most city government, for lack of a better term, products, are not there to make money. They're there as an investment in the community and to provide a service to the community. And I doubt very seriously if the outdoors that you're discussing in January and February are going to be utilized much by the clientele that the Civic Center primarily provides services to. The elderly, the folks that can't get around very well, the folks that don't have the resources to get outside in a snowmobile, in February, to go hunting. It's an investment in the community, is the way I look at it. That's it, Your Honor.
Councilman Batolo.
I'd like to agree on I would ask, and I would challenge you, that we have an issue here with emergency services. Can you help us out on the state level?
No,
Ask why.
I believe it should be run by the private sector. I do.
What if it's not profitable?
Why not? Because it's competing with, because it keeps competing with the government.
Here?
No, it keeps competing with the government. You can't compete with the government. They don't pay the same taxes that the private sector has to.
Are you saying then that the police department should be private as well?
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
Those are mercenaries. Private sector law enforcement are mercenaries.
Emergency services aren't in the city.
Apples and oranges. Law enforcement and ambulances, those are apples and oranges.
Still a public service that needs to happen.
No, those are apples and oranges.
What would you say to the, I'm sorry, Your Honor, what would you say to there are cities in Wyoming where the ambulance service is either part of the fire department or an entity within of themselves?
There you go.
So how is it then apples and oranges in those scenarios?
Because firefighters are EMT certified. They can do the same thing.
But EMS should be private. That's what you just stated. So now they should be part of the fire department, which is government funded.
If you're going to have them separate, then they need to be private. But if they can be part of the fire, why can't they?
Well, that would be apples to apples.
That would be apples to apples.
Yeah.
And then, again, it's not a money-making entity, correct?
That's not the same thing. Recreation and essential services are not the same thing.
Well, I'm not saying that essential services
But
and
you're
recreation are
comparing
the
them
same thing.
as
No,
the same
we were
thing.
comparing ambulance services to law enforcement and fire, and that's where you
Right.
said the ambulance service should be a private entity.
If they're separate from fire, yes. If
Well,
you're
that's
going to
not
have them
exactly the way
separate,
you
then they
pointed it.
might as well be, and then that should be privatized. But if you can combine them with fire, then it'll be the same department. You don't need to privatize it.
So where do we cut, Senator? Because you seem to be the authority on this, and we've been working on this quite some time. Where do we cut to fund 9 more employees to bring on, say, ambulance service into our fire departments, as well as all the amenities go with it, a place to store ambulances, and the ambulances and everything else, the training. Where does that funding come from?
I haven't looked into that, so I can't tell you yet. I
Well,
can if you want me to.
Well, I can tell you what we're hoping is those dollars would come from a general purpose tax that would allow us to do those similar things. But you're here in opposition to that because you're an anti-tax, anti-government. From everything that I've ever heard since you took office, your seat in the Senate, you have ridiculed government about anything they do, the spending. You've asked requests, information from this office along with the entire state, and been provided data to you that there is no way you could ever review. No way.
Not by
As one
myself,
person.
no.
Did you review all that data that we sent?
I have looked it over, yes.
You looked it over. Never heard a word back from you when you made that request. It was school district, it was state, it was cities, it was county. We spent valuable time putting that data back together because you wholeheartedly thought that we as municipal leaders were screwing the taxpayers and not providing
once
what you
accused you of that.
thought should happen. So what is the answer? You seem to have the answer. What is it?
I definitely see that there should be cuts.
But you always get to that point, but you never provide the end result. What's the answer? I can ask for information all
question?
day long.
The question is where the cuts should be made. And I gave you answer where the cuts should be made. That's always the question. Where should we cut? That's where you should cut.
That's where we should cut. Where should the state cut?
I give them that answer all the time too, and they ignore me
They do. It's tough, isn't it?
because they don't want to do it.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's not that easy.
They never tell me why I'm wrong. They just don't want to do it. I give them plenty of reasons why they should.
I guess it's because
where
Senator, the vast majority of the community,
used to the way things are,
if I
that they just
could,
don't want to make changes.
the vast majority of the community considers quality of life and essential services differently than what you perceive them to be. Therefore, we have to balance the entire decision on where those funds are allocated. What we keep, what we lose. We made some tough decisions, and lo and behold, went down, lobbied, requested funds, seen our funds decrease, but we're told to go back, utilize the powers that the legislator gave you, go home and utilize those powers, and then come back if it doesn't work. We came back, and we requested a general purpose tax, and we will a specific purpose tax, and we were told, lo and behold, whoa, we didn't think you'd do that. That's excessive. So what's the answer? Shut it down tomorrow? Just shut down the golf course, the civic center, cut funding to the airport, just shut those things down and build the Bitter Creek, and by golly, we're going to be thriving.
And pull weeds.
I don't get it. I appreciate your comments and for bringing that to our attention, but obviously we don't agree.
Well, taxes definitely aren't going to attract anyone here.
And neither is our inability to provide any type of quality of life for those families that want to move here and get away from the big metropolitan cities and live in what I would like to think is a great community with ample freedom and ability to recreate, quality of life, and low tax base.
It's not going to stay low tax.
That's what brings families and businesses here, and that's what we'll continue to work on.
Not staying a low tax base. I don't know where you're getting that from.
Thanks for coming. We are still on petitions, if you could imagine. I would ask, is there anyone else here tonight wishing to address the city council on any issue whatsoever? Now's your time to do so. Representative Stitt.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Clark Stith, House District 48. I guess in no particular order, I'm not here for any particular purpose today other than to kind of give an update on what's going on in the legislature from my point of view. 3 topics. One is you have a letter in your packet tonight from the Joint Appropriations Committee that I serve on about Fire A pension plan. That's topic 1. Topic 2 would be redistricting and what's going on with the Joint Corporations Committee about that and other proposed changes to election law. And then maybe a short comment about ambulance service, and we're done with that. Maybe I'll start with that. I believe that ambulance service is an essential service. I think we can get it done. I think there are lots of different ways to do it. It's a complicated, big topic. Don't want to take a lot of your time, but I think we do need to change state law. The Governor's Joint Task Force on Healthcare is looking into that issue, and that's seriously on the table. So I think there will be a proposal to make ambulance service, emergency medical services, an essential service in Wyoming. And then you have to figure out how to pay for it, right?
Right.
So, okay, anyway, it's a big topic. On Fire A pension plan, sort of alarmingly in your packet, it says, there's this one-page letter signed by Bob Nicholas and the first chairman. It just sort of politely says, oh, by the way, we appear to be $393 million in the hole on Fire A pension plan, right?
And how are you going to help pay for it? Yeah.
So the 393 is a number the Wyoming retirement system did give to the committee on June 15th at its meeting. That number was 146 million just 6 months ago, so you may wonder how it changed so dramatically. And what the Wyoming retirement system administrators decided to do, for reasons that are somewhat obscure, is they said, well, this plan's about to crash in about 7 years, so we're going to put all of the investments into short-term bonds so that it will crash sooner, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that instead of making a 7% on your money, we're only going to make like 1% on your money, and that's why it crashes so much sooner. Anyway, I'm not part of the subcommittee that's dealing with that problem, but we're going to have hearings about that on this Thursday, September the 9th. My point in addressing you tonight about that is I think your voice should be heard about that. If not this Thursday, September 25th, the Appropriations Committee meets again, and then once again in October.
Representative, I can assure you by Thursday at this meeting, we will have issued a response on behalf of the city of Rock Springs.
And my guess is that the municipalities are not thrilled about the idea of pitching back into the fund. So, but I assume that the music between the lines is that the Joint Appropriations Committee is thinking about that and how wonderful it would be if you'd voluntarily chip in.
The sad thing is, Representative, is some communities are, and we don't feel we have a dog in that fight. And the city did all that was requested. A few districts needed to make sure that we paid into that fund until we were told not to pay into that fund anymore. We didn't have any control of the investments. We didn't have any say-so whatsoever. It's our opinion that the problem resides with the retirement system. They had control of the ship, and they blew a hole in the side, and as it goes down, they're trying to rope something that's fairly stable, which surprisingly I don't know why they threw a rope at Rock Springs, but financially there's just no way. And once you jump into that pond, as we well know, you're going to continue into that pond and pay.
Well, it's certainly true that the legislature in around 1998 blew 2 holes in the ship. They both told the municipalities you don't have to contribute anymore, and they simultaneously raised benefits. So it's kind of a double whammy. Anyway, that's just a problem there. On redistricting, when the county commissioners appointed me to this seat in 2017, one of the things I told them is I cared a lot about redistricting because I want to make sure that Sweetwater County's voice is heard. We're going through that right now. Last Friday afternoon, a few days ago, the Joint Corporations Committee appeared to, in principle, approve a kind of regional concept which has the advantage, for redistricting, which has the advantage of letting those so-called regions more locally decide how the boundary lines for election districts will be drawn. Charlie Scott's proposal was to have Sweetwater and Carbon County as a region. I like that a lot, because it sort of gives us a little more control over it instead of just having the Joint Appropriations Committee draw lines and tell us about it later. Right. So that's kind of a nice process, but I appreciate your input on that. One structural feature that's just a challenge for Sweetwater County is that by population, with 42,000 and change of residents, we have about 4.5 House districts worth of residents, right? So the question is, do you get 4, do you get 5? Right now we have 5, with Scott Heiner having 1 election for District 18. He won by 10 votes. His district is part of Sweetwater County, part of Uena County, part of Lincoln County, right? So that's been a district that historically was held by someone from Kemmer, right? Anyway, so I testified at that hearing just to say, hey, I like the idea of Carbon County and Sweetwater County being together, because together it sort of neatly divides into, between the two counties, 6 House districts and 3 Senate districts. So that's the state of play. It wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the day we get pushed into giving about 1,200 residents to Lincoln County. That could happen. Anyway, it's a messy business, and again, just wanted to give you the update from my point of view. Another kind of interesting thing I thought was interesting, on Thursday, the Joint Corporations Committee approved a proposal to draft legislation that would provide for runoff primary elections for partisan races. That passed 10-3, which sort of surprised me. So that would make the election season for partisan offices really long, because it would start like in March and go through November. So interesting, a lot of ins and outs about that, but just be aware that that's on the agenda. That will get talked about likely at the session in February. So, you know, there are pros and cons to those runoff races. I'm not personally fond of it, because I think in the runoff race, participation drops off so significantly that you lose some of the benefit of narrowing the race. But that's that. And then, so that's all I have to say about that. I don't really, you know, the ambulance is a real interesting issue. It seems like there's some push to maybe encourage hospitals. The way to fund it initially is to use some of the America Recovery Act money, the ARPA money. There's $1 billion, right, that the legislature is going to have to carve up. It's one-time money, right?
Right.
Not ongoing. So you have to figure out what's the long-term plan. If you use it to fund a transition from a private ambulance service to a essentially government-based one, whether that's in the fire department, whether that's the hospitals, or whether that's a special, you know, new ambulance service district, or even an existing rural healthcare district. The healthcare district idea has the advantage of having a funding mechanism going forward. The hospital-based fire ambulance service has the advantage that, because of a quirk in federal law, hospitals get paid more reimbursements for ambulance service than private companies do. It's very strange, but true, apparently. So having said all that, I know you've been here a long time already. Any questions for me?
Councilors, Councilman Savage.
Thank you, Your Honor. Representative Stith, did the Emancipation Proclamation free all the slaves?
It announced the freedom for all of the slaves in the states that were in rebellion.
Correct.
Yeah.
Big difference. And it was only while they were in rebellion.
That's right. Which why we have the 13th Amendment, which is a good
That's
thing.
right. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Councilman, what's your name?
Halter, I think. What
It's been so long.
depends on the day.
Halter.
I just want to talk to you a little bit about the message I sent you about the solar system cap of 25 kilowatts, which for commercial properties and governmental buildings and things like that is significantly low. We pay about $250,000 a year just for the rec center's electricity alone. And there are grants out there available from Rocky Mountain Power, from the utility company, to build solar systems. Idaho's limit is 2,000 kilowatt size systems. Wyoming's is 25. 25 might cover 4% of the costs at that facility. So if we add another 0 to the end of that number, I think that'd be great. I will be pushing pretty hard on all the legislators here, because 25 kilowatts for residential is plenty fine, but for commercial, it's not even close. So when we're trying to save costs in the city, I'm not trying to sell electricity back to the grid. I just want to lower that responsibility. They use 2 million kilowatts a year, so I'd like to help with the recurring costs, especially if there's grant money available to install a system like that. So,
Mayor Acomo or Councilman Halter, I wholeheartedly agree, and I think that's a great idea. I don't see why there should be that limit, and if we can't get it done as a committee bill, then maybe it's appropriate to make it an individual bill. this upcoming session.
Yeah, and I do believe that was actually, I don't know if it was last session or the session before, but I do believe that's when it was put into statute. So,
The for residential homeowners who have solar panels, there was a change in the law that works slightly against them just in this last session by essentially reducing the amount of reimbursement they get to the extent they produce excess electricity.
right,
The so-called avoided cost calculation
right,
was revamped to it was the PSC, I believe, has been authorized to adopt rules that would put in the cost of infrastructure too. The net effect is that you're not going to get the higher reimbursement rate in the future. So that was, relatively adverse to, makes it less attractive for an individual homeowner to move to solar. However, why the city should be prevented from doing it, I can't see a good policy reason for that. So,
Right.
yeah, no, I'd be happy to, as I mentioned in my response to you, the email, I think it's a good idea, and I really always like hearing good ideas.
appreciate it. Thank you.
That is a good idea, Councilman Halter, and thank you, Representative Stitt. Any other questions? It's always pleasant, whether we agree or we don't agree, the conversation is always pleasant. I just won't go there, but it's always pleasant.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Speaking of pleasantries. Spoke too soon.
Would you
Okay.
please state your name, address, and height for the record?
Oh, 8 foot tall and bulletproof, obviously. First of all, I'd like to thank, I'm Billy Shalata. I live in Rock Springs. I live at 624 A Street. And I would like to thank the mayor and the council and all the departments of Rock Springs for the job they've been doing in these economic times, troubled, and with the pandemic that we've been faced with over the last couple of years. So my heart goes out to all of you for what the job that you've had to do. But I'm here on a different note. Starting Saturday is September 11th. And for us that were there in the fire stations or at the TVs, the responders, the police, the fire, emergency services that witnessed what happened on September 11th, 2001. This is a pretty American time. We're Americans, and we have to remember those dates. It's essential that we remember what changed some of our philosophies, how we feel about each other. For a short period of time during those days, we were together. We've drifted apart in certain areas, but I don't think it's happened here in Rock Springs. We're still 56 nationalities. We care about each other. And I just want to remind everybody that Saturday morning, the fire department and the district fire department are having a memorial walk up Grant Street. It starts at 7, I believe, and it goes to 11. Then they're going to have a memorial service of some type. And I just want everybody to contemplate a little bit. Look at your neighbor and your family members, and remember how much they mean to you and how much Rock Springs means to us. I'm 68 years old. And I think that what we try to do in this community is for the benefit of all the citizens of this community. And I have to totally agree with Mayor Acomo. It is not just essential services, it's quality of life. We do these things to make people, these are economic developments that bring people here. And they actually do the proper things for our community. Whether it's the Civic Center, the Rec Center, the golf course, we have to take into consideration that, the times have been tough. People don't go when you have to mask up and you have to be vaccinated or not vaccinated, and it's a scary time. But let's not forget that we're Americans first. No matter what nationality, what race, what religion. We got to take care of each other's. Okay? Thank you, Mayor.
Well stated, Mr. Shalata, and appreciate you coming down and reminding us all. I was going to state that later, but thanks for reminding us that we do need to get out and participate in the ceremony that's going to take place on the 11th. Any other individuals here wishing to address the council on any issue? This is your time to do so.
Your Honor,
Chief,
I would like to make a comment. Would you like me to sit here or go up to the podium?
you can sit there. You got a microphone. State your name for the record.
Thank you. I would just like to say one thing. I have been in emergency services one way or another for close to 30 years. During that time, I've worked with Wyoming State Highway Patrolmen. I've worked with Sweetwater County Sheriff's officers, deputies, excuse me. I've worked with Rock Springs police officers. I worked with agents from the Wyoming Department of Criminal Investigation, and on occasion, even some folks from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I have never found mercenary motives in any of those people. Have always appreciated their professionalism, the services that they carry out, which are many times extremely difficult on behalf of the citizenry of this nation and this city, and I'm proud to work with them as a firefighter, as I know the firefighters of the City of Rock Springs Fire Department are. Thank you.
Well stated, and I could not agree more. Thank you for offering that. Still under petitions. Anyone wishing to address the council on any issue? Hearing none, I'm going to close the petitions section and move on to the council committee and board reports. Councilors, we have two items. One, the Rock Springs Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting minutes of July 8th, 2021, and two, the Main Street Board meeting minutes of August 9th, 2021. And I would ask, are there any other council committee or board reports that may come before the council?
Your Honor.
Councilman Zadi?
I just wanted to give a quick update. We did meet as far as concerning the general purpose tax, the committee for an MOU on emergency services last Friday. Didn't really get very far on anything. We talked about marketing, but we do have another meeting scheduled this Friday, I believe. That's what we're thinking. For the at EMS was Friday. There hasn't been anything sent out yet, but I think we're supposed to meet this Friday, and we hopefully will start talking more about distribution of funds and how this is going to be dealt with. So just a quick update for everybody on that.
That's great. Thanks, Councilman. Any others?
Your Honor.
Councilman West?
I figure it's my turn. I've been quiet. I just wanted to give kind of a quick update. We had a staff meeting this morning and discussed some of the post-flooding, I guess, work that engineering and streets and the other departments have been involved with. We haven't heard much since, I guess, those events and those people that presented with concerns in regards to the different areas in their homes. And so I was curious as to what the city's been doing. I've been asked about it various times. And I just kind of wanted to give a brief update. And Paul, you can jump in if I'm missing something here, as well as you, Mary, over there. But they're going through, the streets and engineering, cleaning out a lot of these ditches and the problems, particularly on the west side of town. They've revamped a couple of them. They're trying to get even deeper in some of the different areas, but there's a shortage of equipment, so we're waiting on some of that. But they're also looking into ways of, there's a new subdivision going on out there, or proposed to be going in out by the Stagecoach area, and so they're working with different detention basins that they can put in there to help with some of those, the sheet piling or sheet flowing rather, that was coming through down Stagecoach Boulevard. Obviously, we know there's a big kind of dip or gully by those residents that got it the worst. Paul's informed that they're looking into retaining walls and getting cost estimates on that. Right now, for those problem areas, we're looking at about $500,000. So is it a cure-all for everything? No, but it'll certainly help with those areas that didn't just get affected by the floods, but from snow plowing or whatever else where they've experienced flooded basements. So the biggest question is, where do we find the money and how do we get it done? But I was pleased to hear that they are working on anything they can to kind of fix these areas, and they're working with the school district and been in talks with them on the Stagecoach School kind of detention pond, or whether it's there between the new satellite school and some of the drainage areas there. So the public doesn't get to hear a lot of that, and so I just felt like maybe before we shut down the rec center and the Civic and the golf course that I'd give an update on where we're at drainage-wise. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman West. Any other?
Your Honor, I just want
Councilman
to
Zani?
kind of add to that. Thank you, Keaton, for bringing that up, and I want to thank Paul, because I do get a lot of questions as well, and you're responsive. Any questions that I've had as far as where are we in the process, and that I know it's a long process. We're checking things, or searching throughout the community on where these issues were, how do we address them, how do we fix them, from cleaning drainage to retaining walls and everything else. I know people, they're looking at particular areas, like their backyard or that, they're not seeing anything done, but know that there are things being done, and there is a process in place and everything. We're fully aware of what, that there are issues and they need to be taken care of, and just know that streets and engineering is taking it seriously and doing what they need to do to mitigate these problems. So, Paul, thank you, too, for your responsiveness.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilors, I would entertain a motion to approve the council committee and board reports, including those that have been brought up, and place them on file.
Your Honor.
Councilman Batolo?
So moved.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, councilors, this is going to move us on to the correspondence section of our agenda, and I just want to bring some attention to item number 2 that Representative Stith referred to, and just let everyone know that we are working on a response to come before the committee on the 9th, so that will be forthcoming. You'll be copied on that letter. And then number 3, if you've read the letter from the Wyoming Homeland Security Director Lynn Budd on the denial of being accepted into the FEMA public assistance program, just due to basically the level of damages which had occurred, which isn't surprising yet. I wanted to thank Chief Walmsley for his efforts in bringing forward all the numbers of the tally and providing that information to Director Budd, and we'll continue to monitor the situation, do the best we possibly can to make sure that we protect our community and help provide assistance to those individuals that seen damaged property. That being said, I'd entertain a motion to approve the correspondence and place on file.
So moved.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, councilors, this is going to bring us to the bills and claims section of our agenda. Item number 1 under bills and claims is the bills and claims for September 7th, 2021. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demas.
I make a motion to approve the bills and claims for September 7th, 2021.
Councilors, we do have a motion to approve the bills and claims for September 7th, 2021. Do we have a second? Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstained.
Let the record show. And item number 2 is the salaries for August 23rd, 2021. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demas.
I make a motion to approve the salaries for August 23rd, 2021.
We do have a motion to approve the salaries for August 23rd, 2021. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, councilors, can bring us on to new business. Item number 1, the request from the police department for permission to fill a vacant officer position. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demas.
I make a motion to approve this request.
We do have a motion to honor this request from the police department. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And item number 2 is a request from the Wyoming Club for permission to allow a food truck to park in a loading zone on various dates for Wyoming Cowboy football games. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman West?
move to approve this request.
We do have a motion to approve this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, councilors, this is going to bring us on to the resolution section of our agenda. I'm going to remove myself, Mr. President, if I could, because the first resolution has to do with the firm of which I am employed. Could you take over? Sure.
So the next item on our agenda is Resolution 2021-124.
A resolution accepting and approving change order number 1 with JFC Engineers and Surveyors and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said change order number 1 on behalf of the city of Rock Springs.
I get a motion for approval.
Mr. Acting, Your Honor.
Councilor West.
Move to approve resolution 2021-124.
And can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilor Demas,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
and Mayor Como.
Abstain.
I'll wait for the mayor to come back. Continue on.
Should have.
Okay, councilors, item number 2, resolution 2021-125.
Unanimous.
A resolution authorizing Timothy A. Como, acting in his capacity as chairman of the Rock Springs Housing Authority, and April Thompson, RSHA Housing Supervisor, to submit a de minimis demolition application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Special Application Center for the demolition of the public housing building located at 1405 Thompson Street, Rock Springs, Wyoming, 82901.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demas?
I make a motion to approve 2021-125.
We do have a motion to approve resolution 2021-125. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 3, resolution 2021-126.
A resolution approving and accepting the preliminary plat for the Volsik subdivision as a proposed subdivision located within 1 mile of the city limits of the city of Rock Springs, Sweetwater County, Wyoming, covering a 65.60 acre tract of land located in section 6, Township 18 North, Range 105 West of the 6th Principal Meridian, County of Sweetwater, State of Wyoming.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor.
Councilman West?
Move to approve resolution 2021-126.
Councilors, we do have a motion to approve resolution 2021-126. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
I'm going to abstain, being as this is a client of the firm that I am employed. Item number 4, resolution 2021-127.
A resolution accepting and approving the grant of a public utility easement from Jerry Cover to the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to accept public utility easement on behalf of said city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor.
Councilman West?
Move to approve resolution 2021-127.
We do have a motion to approve resolution 2021-127. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
I'm going to abstain because this is a client of the firm of which I'm employed. Item number 5, Resolution 2021-128.
A resolution accepting and approving the grant of an overhead public utility easement from Jerry Covert to the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to accept said overhead public utility easement on behalf of said city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Batolo.
move to approve Resolution 2021-128.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-128. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Abstain. Same reasons, same client. Item number 6, Resolution 2021-129.
A resolution accepting and approving a highway safety program federal fiscal year 2022 subaward agreement between the Wyoming Department of Transportation Highway Safety Program and the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said agreement on behalf of the city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage.
I move to approve Resolution 2021-129.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-129. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Patolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 7, Resolution 2021-130.
A resolution accepting and approving a highway safety program federal fiscal year 2022 subaward agreement between the Wyoming Department of Transportation Highway Safety Program and the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said agreement on behalf of the city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage.
I move to approve Resolution 2021-130.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-130. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 8, Resolution 2021-131.
A resolution accepting and approving an addendum to a listing contract with Uinta Realty, Inc. to extend the listing agreement by 6 months for the lease of real property owned by the City of Rock Springs and located at 502 South Main Street, otherwise known as the First Security Bank Building, and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor of the City of Rock Springs to execute said addendum on behalf of the city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-131.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-131. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 9, Resolution 2021-132.
A resolution accepting and approving a Ryan Biter service contract with Ryan Biter Music and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said contract on behalf of the City of Rock Springs.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-132.
Councilors, we do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-132. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 10, Resolution 2021-133.
A resolution accepting and approving an agreement with Kuniko Yamamoto by and through Siegel Artist Management, and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said agreement on behalf of the city of Rock Springs.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman West?
that was pretty good, by the way, Matt. Resolution 2021-133.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-133. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Vitolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 11, Resolution 2021-134.
A resolution accepting grant funds from the U.S. Bureau of Justice Assistance Program for the fiscal year 2020 Bulletproof Vest Partnership.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Patolo.
move to approve 2021-134.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-134. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Vitolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 12, Resolution 2021-135.
A resolution accepting and approving an agreement by and between Lightwire Theater and the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said agreement on behalf of the City of Rock Springs.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demus?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-135.
Councilors, we do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-135. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Vitolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 13, Resolution 2021-136.
A resolution accepting and approving a platform application agreement with Guardian Alliance Technologies and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor of the City of Rock Springs to execute said agreement on behalf of said city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Bentolo?
move to approve 2021-136.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-136. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Councilor West,
Yes.
Vitolo,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. And item number 14, Resolution 2021-137.
A resolution accepting and approving a memorandum of understanding between the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, the City of Green River, Wyoming, and Sweetwater County, Wyoming, and authorizing Timothy Acomo as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said memorandum of understanding on behalf of said city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman West?
based off needing more information, I would move to table Resolution 2021-137.
Councilors, we have a motion to table Resolution 2021-137 until further information could come from the Attorney General's office. I would imagine is the holdup. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called.
I can
Um,
elaborate on that if you'd like,
Could you?
Counselor. Did you have a question on it?
What's the question before the Attorneys General?
So the question before the Attorney General is whether or not the cities and the counties can utilize some funding for the promotion of the general purpose tax, whether it's marketing or information. And I think the question was posed to the. Well, and that's what we're waiting to see. We just want to make sure, and I think the county's in the same boat and Green River are same boat. We're waiting for a response from the Attorney General just to make sure that it's clear and transparent on what can and can't be done.
The difference on the special election is that you're bonding the project typically. So you have bond counsel that goes after the marketing and the advertisement for it. So in a way, you're essentially funneling that money back, but it's going to the bonding company to promote it, not just directly coming from us to
Correct.
whoever might be advertising it. Where in this case, we don't have that. So there's some back and forth, it sounds like, with the attorneys that we're waiting on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We went through this with the special purpose tax, was it 2004, 5, 6, somewhere around there?
Yeah,
Because we had to raise funds
we did.
because we couldn't contribute public funding to the
Yeah.
campaign, so.
We paid for our own marketing.
That's right. That's
So therefore, is it informational purposes or is it promotion? And we just want to make sure what the Attorney General's office feels is the correct path. I think we have a motion and a second by discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Patolo,
This would be on the table, by
On
the
the
way.
table?
Yeah.
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Yes.
Demus, Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes.
I think we still got 10 weeks, so there's plenty of time before the election.
Right. This can bring us to the ordinance section of our agenda, councilors. We have 5 ordinances. First one being on third reading, ordinance 2021-08, third reading.
An ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Rock Springs from R2 low density residential and B1 neighborhood business to the zoning designation of B2 CD community business district conditional district for 2 parcels of land totaling 5.364 acres and located in section 33 and section 34, resurvey township 19 north, range 105 west of the 6th principal meridian in the city of Rock Springs, county of Sweetwater, state of Wyoming.
Councilors, third reading, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage?
I move to approve, ordinance 2021-08.
Councilors, we do have a motion to approve ordinance 2021-08 on third reading. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Hickerson,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Patolo,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
I'm going to abstain not being a part of this certain segment, but this is actually a client that is of the firm that I work with. Therefore, I will abstain. And item number 2, ordinance 2021-09, first reading.
An ordinance amending Article 7.4 entitled Plumbing and Sewer Code of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, whereas the governing body of the City of Rock Springs desires to amend Article 7.4 entitled Plumbing and Sewer Code, Section 7.407 of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs.
Item number 3, ordinance 2021-10, first reading.
An ordinance amending Article 4.14 of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, entitled Water Service, whereas the governing body of the City of Rock Springs desires to amend Article 4.14 entitled Water Service, Sections 4, 1401, 41404, 41405, 41406, 41408, 41409, 41410, 41412, and 41415 of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs.
Item number 4, ordinance 2021-11, first reading.
An ordinance amending Section 1604C of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs entitled Adopting the Personnel Policies and Procedures Relating to City of Rock Springs Employees and Adopting Revised Personnel Policies.
Item number 5, ordinance 2021-12, first reading.
An ordinance amending Article 2.1 of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs entitled Jurisdiction and Procedure, Article 3.5 of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs entitled Humane Control and Regulation of Animals, and Article 5.2 of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs entitled Operation of Motor Vehicles.
Councilors, at this time, we will adjourn into an executive session. I would entertain a motion to adjourn into an executive session at this time.
Your Honor.
Councilman
To
Vitola,
discuss,
you have a second?
what are we discussing? Litigation, real estate, both?
I'm sorry?
What are we discussing in executive session?
Oh, I'm sorry, litigation and real estate?
I'll second that.
As stated. We do have a motion. Did you second?
Yes.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will adjourn into an executive session.